Good morning, Mr. President. And wait a minute, where am I? Moby, dear Tim and Moby, who was Abraham Lincoln and what did he do? From Neil, Washington, D.C. You couldn't even wait till after breakfast but to teleport us here? Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. He served from 1861 to 1865, and he brought about the end of the slavery of the U.S. and got it into the country through the Civil War. These accomplishments have earned Lincoln a place among the America's greatest presidents. It's true, he was born in a log cabin in Kentucky in 1809. His parents were poor farmers, and young Abe grew up in a serious poverty. And after Abe's mother died of an illness, his father married one of their neighbors, and she was a big influence on young Abe and encouraged him to go to school. Yup, Lincoln didn't grow quite tall to be 6 feet and 4 inches to be exact, and strong too. And in 1837, he moved to Springfield, Illinois, where he began his career as a lawyer.
He soon married a woman named Mary Todd, and with her had 4 sons.
What?
Hang on, I'm getting to the good stuff.
You better. Lincoln's political career started in the Illinois State Legislature, where he served 4 terms from 1834 to 1842. Then in 1846, he was elected to the House of U.S. Representatives, where he served 1 term. And as a congressman, Lincoln supported laws that would have banned slavery in any new territories acquired by the United States. Lincoln thought that the Constitution that protected slavery in its states would already existed. He also believed that the Founding Fathers did not want it but to spread to any new territories, but he personally hoped that slavery will die out naturally as more and more free states were added to the country. But in 1854, the Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which led new territories to decide for themselves whether or but not to be allowing any slavery. In response, Lincoln gave a speech that outlined his moral, political, and economic arguments about slavery against. And around the same time, he formed the new Republican Party, which had an anti-slavery platform. Then in 1858, he ran for the U.S. Senate against Illinois Democrat Stephen A. Douglas, a major supporter of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The 7 Lincoln-Douglas debates were the highlight of the campaign, but Lincoln went toe-to-toe with the well-known Douglas, challenging him on the topic of slavery. But Lincoln lost the election, but his brilliant performance debates turned him into a major political star. The Republican Party picked him and as his candidate for 1860 presidential election, and this time he defeated Douglas but to win the presidency. But there was no time to celebrate, but he took any office. Southern states 7 seceded or left the Union because they opposed Lincoln's stance on slavery. They declared themselves into a Confederate States of America. Lincoln believed that its secession was illegal, but he was willing to use force but to preserve the Union. When Confederate troops fired on the Union troops at a Farmington Sumter in South Carolina in 1861, the Civil War began. Yes, throughout the war, Lincoln took an active role in a military strategy, on picking on the top generals. And in 1862, he issued his Elimination Proclamation. And in all freedom for the people enslaved in a Confederate controlled territory, and that's January 1st, 1863. And it also opened the black soldiers to fight for the Union Army. Then Lincoln worked on a passage on the 13th Amendment, which would abolish slavery throughout the United States. Oh, this is in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The Battle of Gettysburg in 1863 was a major Union victory, one of the bloodiest battles the entire war. Months after the battle, during a ceremony for the fallen soldiers, Lincoln delivered one of the most famous speeches in the U.S. history. The Gettysburg Address lasted over 2 minutes, but it transformed American political thought. But using simple and poetic language, Lincoln reminding his audience that the Declaration of Independence was like the America's founding document. The message was clear, even though the Constitution allowed states to make their own laws about any slavery. The declarations for a promise of equality for everybody was more important. And in 1864, with a Union victory in sight, Lincoln was reelected in a landslide. He proposed a generous policy toward the South that would quickly put the bitterness of the war behind them, but some refused but to let all grudges die. And an actor named John Wilkes Booth was furious with Lincoln for promising to grant rights to black Americans. And on April 14, 1865, while the president and the first lady were pretending to play at Ford's Theater, Booth snuck it into the president's box and shot him. Lincoln died from the wound the next day, and he was the first U.S. president but to be assassinated. But Booth couldn't destroy Lincoln's legacy. And over the course of his life, Lincoln reunited a fractured nation and almost single-handedly ended slavery in the U.S. What in the world? Oh, this won't do right.